This is the Cultra Trail Running Podcast, episode 276. My name is Laura Becker, and I am here to chat.
From the belly of the Beast Coast, Glastonbury, Connecticut, this is the Cultra Trail Running Podcast. We talk about all the fun shit that happens on the trails that most normal people don't care about. The language we use is fucking explicit and raw like the trails we run on, so don't listen with your kids! Cultra is brought to you by our Patreons and supporters, and we are 112% listener supported, and support is good.
So this is
she's like taking off her clothes to do this.
I'm taking off my clothes. It's hot down here. I don't know how my husband handles it. Okay.
All right.
So I'm joined today by evil Becky Burke.
Yay. I look like a train wreck.
Our special guest, Miss Laura Becker.
Yay.
We're so excited. So we wanted to have you on because I was thinking about it the other day. You just did an ultra, right? And you're a year out from having a baby. And I didn't start running until my son was like 1. So that's when I started running. And I was just thinking about it, like, postpartum, getting back into running, getting back into ultras. And my friend Tiffany just signed up for her first 100-miler after her
Tiffany.
her fourth
Tiffany.
baby. And it just got me thinking. I'm like, this is just an interesting topic because there's so much about it, right?
Yeah, there really is. It's different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Every day is so different. I swear to God, it's just this crazy roller coaster. And postpartum.
Sorry.
No, go for it, please.
What was like before you had him? I mean, I think I know some of it, but like, what had your like running athletic life been like pre-children, and like how was that between you and your husband, and because I think like Celeste was saying too, like that's also an interesting dynamic to see, like, this is where I was, and this is where I am now. And yeah.
I know. So my story is like very lengthy, but I would say, so running and being active has definitely been my lifestyle. And it's always been very important to me. And my husband, ironically, though, I will say I'm an adult onset athlete. I was not an athlete growing up.
Same.
So my husband and I have been married for 10 years in October. It was our 10-year anniversary. And when I got married, I had just done my first half marathon ever. And since then, so now in those 10 years, I am a multiple Ironman finisher.
Sweet.
Several ultras, tons of I don't want to say tons, several 50K, 50 milers, so it started back in 2011. I did like my first 5K. And then, in 2012, I did my first half marathon. And then I got into the triathlon scene. And then Ironman, after my third Ironman, I was like super burnt out from just like Ironman. And then I found the woods. And then COVID hit, which worked out great because the only good place to be was the woods.
Yep.
And then that's when I started running a lot with Debbie Livingston, and she kind of showed me the ways of the trails.
Yeah, you guys are such a little duo. I mean,
yeah.
So she kind of was like, let's just go run this as fast as we can. And I was like, okay.
Oh, isn't that when you guys did the not Nipmuc,
we did a Shinipsit.
No, the Shinipsit.
Yeah, we did the Shinipsit. We did Tunxis. We did a bunch during COVID. So now, fast forward that at that time. So to answer your question, at that time, right, I didn't have kids. I did work a couple. I'm a full-time teacher, right? So I'm very committed to teaching. So I was doing extra things after school at school, and so I filled my time that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I could do my trainings when I wanted to. Like if I wanted to hike after school, I could go hiking. If I wanted to go run or, I've always been an early morning athlete.
so good.
So that's really helpful because I would always get up and I would get it done before, my time, like with family starts. I will say though, that my husband joked, he's like, before you had Liam, he's like, I know that our day would start after you did your sixth workout. He was probably exaggerating slightly, but I mean, like to his point, like on a Saturday, I would work out for several hours, or train or go adventuring or whatever. And then in the afternoon at 3:00, we'd get together and we'd spend the rest of the day together. It's like, and not every day, but that's, that's kind of how my training regimen ended up being, and during the week I would go before school. Right. And then you have a baby, right? Oh, well, then you get pregnant. Wait. Before that.
Wait, and did your husband, he trains too, right?
He's a power lifter.
Wow.
So,
I knew that.
But that is like super yin and yang, like powerlifting, like for his competitions, right? Like it's 30 seconds for a lift. You have a 1 minute a 1 minute timer and you have to do your lift. I mean, you do 3 lifts of each discipline. He's got, deadlift, squat, and bench. But again, think about that versus,
24 hours.
Power. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But his training is obviously very different. It's not as extreme as he likes to say, my training regimen. But he appreciates it. He supports it. He 100%, especially now trying to get back into it and things, he'll tell me, please go run. Please go run.
Oh my God, that's what my husband would tell me all the time.
He'd be like, does that too.
He'd be like coming over
because
with my shoes. Yes, because he'd be like giving my shoes, like, take these and go. Like I don't know where you're gonna go, but just go somewhere, put them on and go.
Yeah.
Just go. Yeah. My husband.
But it's hard as a mom now too, is like I have this thing about leaving and I don't do so all of my training during the week happens about 4 a.m. before Liam gets up.
I mean, yeah.
And but now it's like if he gets up early or it's like it's like a constant battle.
You don't have control when you have a baby. Your control is gone. It's funny because we were talking about this topic. I was running with my friends and I was talking about we're Laura's coming on and we're going to talk about this and my friend Craig goes, I bet it's kind of like after an injury. I'm like, kind of. And then Ash is like, except for the mom guilt. I'm like, there you go. Then there's the mom guilt.
And the control. Like he the time. I mean, I will say like, so I did actually, it's funny that you say that because in 2018, I had a trauma where my iliac arteries occluded in both of my legs during a race.
What is that? What does that mean?
So your iliac arteries, right, they provide blood to your legs. They're in your abdomen area, if you will.
Okay.
So your iliac arteries come down and during a race, I had a endofibrotic reaction, which is like my psoas muscle was suffocating them basically. Was it too tight? And the end of the race, my legs were really tingly. I knew something was wrong, then I was in a lot of pain and then I couldn't walk. I mean, we could do a whole podcast on that whole situation. I'll summarize that I tried really hard to figure out what was going on. I, flew back home. I went down to Alabama to race to qualify for Worlds in Hawaii in triathlon and for Xterra off-road triathlon and got my qualifying spot. But at the end of the race, I couldn't walk. And so chalked it up to racing too hard. Next day, took a rest day, flew back home, couldn't walk through the airport, had to get on a buggy in an airport.
Wow.
Because I couldn't. And I was like, something's really wrong. I'm in a lot of pain. Like I was like sweating, fast forward, tried to get through the week. Couldn't, I took the next day off. I didn't work out, which, and then the next day tried to swim. I couldn't kick. So I put a pull buoy between my legs. And by Thursday, I ended up in the ER. I had no pulses in my feet or ankles.
Wow.
And they were talking about possible loss of limb.
That's
So
crazy.
God.
crazy, cray. So, my point of saying that is I had to have both of them replaced. So they took my saphenous veins from my thighs and replaced them to my arteries. And I had to recover from that, right? So that is two major surgeries. I have 20 inches of scars on each side of my body between my abdomen and my legs. I would say
each one was its own surgery?
Scary.
Yes, because one surgery took 7 hours. He didn't know how long. I'm the first documented female to have this that had complete occlusions. But point being is like there was 2 surgeries. One was 7 hours. They wouldn't do the second leg because I was already under for 7 hours and they won't keep you under anesthesia. Right. So they put you, they made me basically build collaterals over time. I feel like I'm taking away from the topic that I'm here to talk about.
No, this is fascinating.
I know. My point being is that I had to recover from that, which I started with walking. So as soon as they said they wanted me to walk because you move your vascular, vascular issues are not something that athletes generally tend to deal with. And my vascular surgeon had no idea how to deal with an athlete because it's usually diabetics or people who are unhealthy or old. So he was like, but they do want you to walk. And he's like, and so I was like, oh, I'm going to go walk. And he's like, I'm worried what that means to you. Like, I mean, like him and I are like best buddies now, like, cause I'm his claim to fame. He's spoken all over the world about the case and things like that. And so, anyways, but I had to start with walking. Right. And then I could start spinning slightly, like, I don't know, it was like 8 weeks, maybe after that, like, wow. But every day I got out and walked, and every day I tried to walk a little bit further, and every day, but it was like PTSD when I had Liam. I had a C-section, an emergency C-section, and I started with walking, right? You start with walking.
You start with
walking, and then you try to get, spinning back in, and then, swimming, and then you get the clear to like maybe try to run. And I probably tried to run way too soon. And but it was okay. And like, but it is like an injury. It is. And I will say though, I think to your friend Celeste, coming back from pregnancy has almost been more difficult than coming back from my trauma in 2018.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy? But how there's so many aspects of it that you don't even think about. Like
it's sleep deprivation, your hormones. I'm nursing. I just finished nursing a month ago. I nursed until he was 12 months. He just turned
Congratulations.
That's not an easy feat, right? So that in itself, I had to pump.
Oh my God. I will say that
pumping.
God. That thing was attached to me at 24/7. I just like walk around with the superstore.
It's just you have these guns all the time.
I don't know if Art told you I did jug end in July. That was my goal that day was to hit marathon distance. And at 4 hours, I became engorged.
Oh.
But I also knew I was 3rd place female at the time and I didn't want to stop. So I took my hand pump and I pumped and ran.
Wait, were you pumping while you were running?
I passed Art. I was like, hey, Art. So I pumped and ran because I was like, I could stop and pump, but then I'm going to stop. Right. And like at that point, I had another hour and a half. And I just needed to relieve myself enough
just to get the pain off.
Yeah, because I was really worried about mastitis. And literally, and at first I was super nervous about how other athletes were going to respond to what I was doing. And I even asked, so it was a loop race, right? Jug end is a loop race.
Yeah.
And I just, as I went by, I was like, I asked the director, I was like, hey, like I'm engorged. Like, I know that's like TMI, but I have to relieve myself.
Was it Ben?
I want to keep going. What?
Was it Double and Ben?
Yeah.
Oh, he's the best.
There during that conversation. That was awesome.
He was like, oh my God. He's like, that's amazing. He's like, that's probably the best thing I've ever heard. Like, he was so supportive and so like disqualified. Of course not. Like, blah, blah, blah. I was like, am I going to get DQ'd for like indecency? But when you pump, you're covered, right? So like, covered.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
I mean, here's the thing, right? people whip it out on the side of the trail to pee.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
if you could do that, I can pump. Like,
yeah.
I have to say though, if I was in a race and I saw you going by me or me go by whatever, and you were pumping, like that's where I would get super awkward, where I'd be like, "Oh my God, that's amazing!" Then I'd be like, "Oh wait, how much milk do you have?" Like I'd say something gross and like just weird, but I would just be like, "That's so awesome!" And
I would just be like, "Okay, this is even worse than a woman passing me with a stroller." Like,
so which has happened. Will say though, Becky, it was crazy though. Like women were like, "You're my hero." Like they were saying the coolest things. They were so supportive, and I was so nervous, like because I was like, I don't know, but people, like it was like definitely like supported, which was awesome because I will say like being pregnant and running, and even postpartum running, you get flack for different reasons.
Yep,
and that's been difficult for someone who. Like I love to lift people up, right? Like, so in my mind, I can't understand why someone wants to put someone down. Like,
right. Yeah. Right.
What's your purpose? Like, what's your point?
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd get the, when I went to my OB-GYN and was like, before we even got pregnant, and I was like, listen, this is what my running's like this is what I do. And I want to be able to do it as long as I can, but, safely. And, she told me what I need to do and where I need to keep my heart rate and whatever. And that's exactly what I did. And there were like people that were like, oh, so I get it. So you just care more about your running than the children you're carrying inside you. And
that is mind-blowing.
That's it. That's exactly what I'm doing.
It's really mind-blowing to me. Like how people's minds work. Because, I mean, our bodies are built to create that human being. They know it. Like women, years ago, they were in the fields. They were working hard, physical work. Like, and you're going to judge me for going for a run and keeping my
And the
heart
thing is like, if you were doing that, right? So it's not like I just got pregnant and then I started running, right? Like that would be a poor choice. Like maybe, if you started if your body wasn't used to it, your body might react, right? So I can understand that you wouldn't start going crazy, but I had literally been running like I ran a 50K. I ran a 50K 2 weeks before I got pregnant out in California.
Oh.
And
your body is used to it.
Your body, and then I got pregnant and then like I ran through my pregnancy. And but I was saying to Steve, and why I think it was not saying it was harder than the artery recovery, but in a very different way. But I feel like getting myself back to where I was at right before I got pregnant is like, it's really hard. And it's hard, like emotionally, mentally draining, like, and I feel like I'm working, but it's like not happening.
Yeah. Well, too, because my doctor told me, I remember now I had major complications. I almost died with 2 of my kids. But my doctor said, when you have a child, right, it's like a house. You're a house. And somebody moves in and they move all your furniture around and they don't take care of it. And you know what I mean? And then they're gone, but they've destroyed your house.
Right.
And that's how being pregnant is.
That is such a great analogy.
They're in there and your organs move around and your body changes and your hormones change. And it's very, very different. And I know because I had some medical issues a couple years ago, whatever, gained a ton of weight. I've been losing it. And I was saying, I'm like, I on the scale weigh less than I did when I got pregnant with my first kid, but my body's completely different. Like the shape of it, everything is completely different. So it's just interesting how much we changed going through that, It
was like going through the birth process because like, for example, the day I went in to labor, I ran 4 miles pretty quickly. Right. Yep. So I was probably at that point, like a 9-something pace.
Oh my goodness.
3 weeks.
I can't even
but 3 weeks before I got pregnant, at that I ran a 1:30 half marathon.
Yeah, you're a fast little shit.
Right. No, but my point being, now it's been a year after, I struggle to hit that Pace, like, I'm my point being is that like I had that, and that's only 2 years ago. That was March of 2022 that I got pregnant in April of 2022. So we're coming up to 2 years. March will be 2 years that I could do that. I kept my speed for a good piece of my pregnancy, right?
Yep.
And then I had the baby, and it's all gone. And it's been a year that I've worked really hard. And I'm not saying like I need the speed back. It's that's not my point. The point being is it takes so much out of your body.
Yeah.
To run it. Right?
I mean, labor and delivery is a trauma, right?
Yeah.
You are like pregnancy, labor, delivery is all trauma to our bodies.
Yeah.
And then we have to heal.
Yeah.
But we can't really heal because it's not like you can rest.
Yeah,
right?
You're taking care of an infant.
You still have to mom, and now you're not sleeping.
Yeah.
And even when you're sleeping, you're not sleeping. And my youngest is 13. My oldest is 21. I have not slept in 21 years. Like I just
she really hasn't.
I'm so excited. I can't wait.
I woke up at 1:45 this morning. So great. Yeah, but it's like your everything in your life is different now, right? Yeah. You got to think about, it's almost like we take a back seat, right? And all of what Liam needs is what matters. Yep. And what we need or want doesn't. And it's like innately part of us. Cause I remember like when I first started running, the mom guilt, right? Like, or anything. I'm going on a cruise in a couple of weeks. This is my first girls trip since before I had a kid. My oldest is 21. This is the first time I'm leaving my kids. I mean, I've gone to a race and come home, but I've never gone on a vacation.
Yeah.
Right.
Because of mom guilt. Like even, everybody goes out at a night or something. And I'm like, no, I got to be home. I got to make dinner. I got to take care of my kids. I got to, and it's like this insane mom guilt that we have. And it changes.
Absolutely. But I will say that one of the things that is that like, I know that if I don't take care of myself, I am not as good as a mom. And so that's why
100%
made it a priority for me to get back into running. Like forget pace, whatever, just getting outside for me is like, and trying and keeping going has been like really important because I know that like when I get back or like if I have that, I am reset and I have everything I need for him because it's a lot.
It is,
so much.
So much.
And did you have him early?
So no, I had him right on time. He was due on Christmas Eve and I had him on the 23rd. But I had they did end up inducing me because it was right before the holiday and there was no inductions between Christmas and January 1st. And because of my age, I'm old, geriatric, actually.
Super crazy. Like where it's like really.
I was 30. I'm 30. I was 37 when I got pregnant. So that's old. And also because of my arteries that made me high risk.
Right, yeah.
And,
and the weight on it must have been like difficult
to get ready. Yeah. To get pregnant, right? After the surgery. Is that what you're saying?
Like the carrying the weight.
Oh, yeah.
I was induced with my third one because the way he was laying was on and my legs would give out. So I was induced with Michael because of the way he was. Yeah.
But my induction didn't go super smoothly. And I ended up in labor, but he wasn't like dropping.
Active labor, right.
Yeah. So I was contracting. It was like, so I went in on a Tuesday, ended up with a C-section, emergency C-section on Friday.
Oh my God. I thought my labor was.
It was almost 60 hours.
Wow. My first was 36 and a half. My second was 38 and a half. And my third was only 8 and a half. So
it was, I like to go big or go home. That's what I told myself. Go big or
if you're going to do it right.
Oh my God. And it's so crazy the difference because I had like we joked that I had the easiest pregnancy until it wasn't easy. And it was just the first day of my third trimester, my body was like, yeah, we're done. And these babies are coming out. And I spent a month in the hospital on like every kind of medication to try and keep them in. And like lost like 8 pounds in the hospital because all the medications they put you on, you can't eat, you can't drink, and then it was like, okay, we can't do anything else. Like I went in at 28 weeks. I had the boys a day short of 32 weeks, and they were like, we have no more things to do. So next time you go into labor, like you're just having them. So it was like, and I remember like that whole thing of where you like think back to where you were when I went into the hospital. It was like the day after I went in, I was like, oh my God, a year ago today, I was crossing the finish line of Ironman Florida. And now I'm like in a hospital, in a bed, like not sure, with like this rat's nest head, like not sure if the babies are going to come or not.
With now. I don't even know that I have long hair.
Messy bun is the rest of your life. Right?
For real.
Oh man. Gosh. But I think that what you were saying about just knowing that you have to look at how you are and take care of yourself, because when you're not like fully there for your baby. And I as you were saying that, I was thinking how much like I remember like that being the same case for me, where I was like, my running that was my social time. That was my time away from the boys. That was my workout time. It was my time outside. Like it just checked off so many boxes. And then it's like, once I would come home, I'd be like, okay, now I'm ready. And it was just such a distinct, like where running it went to like that other step of realizing like how many things that it does for you, and how many other ways it like, helps you out.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, because early motherhood is hard, right?
It's really hard.
It's emotional. It's physically taxing. You're trying to learn, especially as a new mom. I have no idea what I'm doing. Social media.
So for the record, that doesn't change.
Yeah.
It just doesn't change.
And then I see all these things on like Instagram. I'm like, I've had to like stop watching stuff, because then you're like, am I doing the right thing? Like, is he getting progressing? Is he not? Like, and it's just like, so all of these thoughts are always in your head, and then you want to make sure you're doing what you can. And so, but in order for me to be a strong mom, like, and the other thing is I want him to grow up knowing that like we work hard and take care of ourselves. And like mom has, you have goals.
Yeah.
That's why I like this whole thing with, I made these goals not knowing how my recovery would be, but just wanting to just have the goals, because I think just having a goal for me, whether, and like Debbie she was like, one time she said, when I didn't know if I was going to hit my final goal of postpartum before a year, she goes, not every goal is always meant to be reached, which is so true. Right.
Right.
But if you have them, at least they're there. You do everything, and so that's when I had to do everything in my power to make sure that I can at least try to get to the goals.
Right. I think it's important for our kids to see not only that we set goals, that we work till goal, but sometimes that we fail. Yeah. And it's okay. Right. So I didn't meet that goal. Right. I did this, but I didn't do what I wanted to do. And that's okay, because, we fail in life. Yep. And it's important for our kids to learn that, so that they can learn how to deal with failure, and that for me, like as a stay-at-home mom, was a huge struggle, because it's not like I had a career that my kids could see, or I had, what did my kids see? That I took care of kids, you know what I mean? And that's it. So when I really started getting running, and now they're seeing me have these goals, and like I said, sometimes I reach them, sometimes I don't, but they see me working hard. They see, and they're encouraging. And my race this weekend, I'm like, I just want a hamburger. And my daughter went out and got me lunch, and, just to support my race. It was really cute. And so it's like it's just so different as you're growing, as they see you setting it and developing, and wins and losses and all of it,
Absolutely. And then like, I thought about that. Like, I want to tell Liam when he's older someday about the year after he was born, and like what it was like, and, the goals that I set. And so like my first goal was I wanted to run a half marathon. And then my second goal, my B goal, was to run a marathon, which I hit at Jug End. And then my A goal, which I didn't know, was to get a 50K to like complete the circle. I know that doesn't make sense to everyone, but like, remember I told you
get it. Yeah.
Okay, 2
Oh,
weeks.
it makes sense to me.
Yeah. So since I ran that 50K 2 weeks before I got pregnant, I wanted to like complete the circle. Like I went through getting pregnant, had the baby, and now I'm back. Like whether I was back or not. So like I even drove to. The day I was supposed to do a 50K, Liam was having trouble. I didn't want to leave him. He was not feeling well. He had his first ear infection. So I ended up trying to do it the next day from home, like my own self-supported 50K, because like I didn't really need a race to do it. I just wanted to hit the distance. So I ended up trying to go do it. And I was like, while I was doing it, I was sweating. My back was hurting. I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I mean, I was like in a lot of pain. And I ended up at mile 21. I was doing a circle, like a loop. And Arts Loop, we call it the Livingston Loop, the Cheney Rail Trail, and we had added into it in Manchester area. And I circled back home, and I was like lying on my front lawn in like the fetal position, and Debbie was with me, and she's like, "You're done," and I was like, so it turns out I had mastitis.
Oh
so
no!
Inside, I had a fever of 104. And because I was still nursing and because this was back in October. Ended up with mastitis, just didn't know it, and kept trying, even though at mile 10 I thought it was a bad idea, but made it 21. But so I didn't quite make it. And then Tony Bonanno had said like, hey, there's this 50K in December, maybe you could do that one, and so I said, well, this is my last, it was like the last shot in the hole, it was like, because he actually turned 1 year the next week. So this was literally the last shot. But I hadn't been running as long as I had been wanting to, because life and Liam and whatever. So I drove there not thinking. I literally drove there and I talked myself into this, like, if you don't make it, it's okay. Like, just go do, whatever. And Tony was there too. And I just started running and I was like, I feel really good. And at one point, Tony ran it with me. Like we ended up running it together. And at one point I was like, Tony, I might make it. He's like, what do you mean you might? He's like, you got the bag. Like, and he was
so great.
So cool. And I made it. And I then like Steve brought Liam and I had Liam. I had to nurse him as soon as I finished, right in the parking lot, didn't care. But like, I was like, wow, I did make that goal, and I can't wait to tell him that story one day, just being, a mom.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he's going to go brag to his friends that his mom is a badass.
Like just, you can do hard things. I'm a STEM teacher and I teach STEM to elementary kids. And the issue with that is that kids don't know how to fail or how something doesn't always work. And in STEM, things don't work. Like you have to keep trying, right? I do engineering, I do robotics, I do coding, and like they're like 7, right? So they're like, well, this didn't work, and then they lose their minds, literally lose their minds.
Literally, yeah.
And I'm trying to teach them, like, it's hard. You just have to keep going back, trying, right? So this is like a perfect example of keep going back.
So do you, so you teach in school, like how long were you like on maternity leave? And then what was it like going back to work? And did you go back, full time, or was it like summer or?
So I had him in December. I was planning, so we get 8 weeks, like FMLA, you get 8 weeks. So another side note was 4 weeks after having Liam, I started bleeding and I really badly ended up in the ER. I had a retained placenta.
I had that.
So ended up having to have that little surgery. And although I will say, did you have it, Celeste? Did you have yours with a C-section?
No.
Yeah. Because with a C-section, they take it out, right? So
was it that there was some of it still in there?
Yeah. Yeah. And mine got severely infected. So, because it was even longer than 4, I think it was like 8 weeks, and I was like hemorrhaging, and
Yeah.
it was really bad.
Super scary.
Yeah.
Super scary.
And you have to go for surgery right away. And
yep. So I ended
yep.
up in surgery that day. But because of that, my leave got extended because of that. So I ended up making it almost till April break, a week before April break. So then the real fun began, right? So while I was home, my husband was home too. So like I was able to get some training in, or like, we tag team.
Sleep.
It was like
Yeah.
a little easier. And then I went back
Such
to
a
school,
difference.
and I was like, holy shoot. Like, I know this is culture. I could technically,
Yeah.
but it was insane, right? Because now I'm trying to get back into school. Kids are all off because I've been out, so they had a sub for a long period of time, which you don't come back to the same way you left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to do that, and I was pumping. I was pumping twice at work. I was trying to nurse. I was trying to run before Liam got up to make sure that I had it in, because then after school, I was by myself. My husband works second shift. So when I get home from school, it's only me until 9 o'clock when he gets home. So it's hard.
It's really,
And I will say, there's like been points where I would be like, it's worth it. Like, for me to keep trying to get up at 3:30,
Right. Yeah.
and just because then you have to, get everything ready for the day. But you make it work. Yeah. But I will say there are moments where, even last week, because he had another ear infection. So it's like, and it just,
peanut,
just takes over. And trying to be a full-time teacher. I'm trying to be a full-time mom, and I'm trying to be a full-time athlete, and I'm training for my first 100, which
yay. Oh, sorry.
So exciting for me. And like, my husband's super pumped, and like, he's even made this whole like vacation after. He's like really, and so I'm like trying not to get emotional, but this week was hard because, Liam was sick and school was crazy, with, we had the 100th day of school. And if you have elementary kids, the 100th day means like, it's like Taylor Swift.
Dress up. And yeah.
Oh my God. It's like, they're freaking insane, and so like the whole week was all whack, so it's just a lot. And then, I just have to remember to give, I don't always give myself grace, and none of us do. Let's be honest.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
We don't. And
we don't.
But we tell each other to give
right.
grace.
Yeah.
Like, when you are struggling, I will say, give yourself grace. You're doing amazing. Like, you have, but then when yourself, it's just, we can't. I struggle with that. I struggle with that. I shouldn't generalize. But
that's so.
I know.
I think that's normal.
What's good though too is that it shows to me that you're very insightful, and that you know where you're at. That you're like recognizing those things. You know what I'm saying? So I think sometimes when we are doing those things, it's like, because we know, okay, this isn't, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I need, this is what I don't need, this is like bad self-talk that I know is not accurate, and it was not something I would tell anyone else. And like, that just makes it so much better and easier. And
sometimes when I have that negative self-talk, like if I tell a friend about it, like, or maybe say, okay, I'm trying to give myself a break, because like this weekend when I was doing my race and I'm like struggling. And then I said to my friend, I'm like, I had COVID a week ago. Maybe I should give myself a break, that this isn't going quite as well as I wanted it to. But sometimes vocalizing it to somebody else helps me, because then they're going to give me the correct perspective versus the negative talk perspective, if that makes sense.
100%. Absolutely. I will say, like, I'm really, really grateful. Like, Debbie and I are really close, and she's, a mother runner, right? And so she's done a lot of crazy things, raising kids, and, she is a good perspective for me. If I feel a certain way, but she also doesn't sugarcoat, which is great too,
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd like during this summer when I was trying to get back to racing and worried about Liam and, I would worry about leaving him or whatever. And I'd be like, I don't know if I should go anymore. Like, I'm thinking about this. And she's like, no, you should go. No, like she won't give me like
Right.
unless he was like sick or that day she was like, I understand. She's like, you're right. You know what? Your brain's not going to be there. Stay. That's when the 50K, she's like, your brain won't even be there. Like, you're going to be so worried. So like good perspective. Right. And I think that being a mother, I have a whole new perspective. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that only mothers can understand, to be honest.
No, it's true.
Say that a year ago, I had no idea. And I could have read everything under the sun. You have no idea.
Yeah. And I don't think it's possible to even like try and comprehend unless you've lived it.
Yep.
I remember saying that after my first was born, where it was just like, there is no way to describe all the feelings that you're going to have. It's like, there's not a word for it.
It's a lived experience.
It really is. And it's not all just like, there's so much love, right? Unconditional love. And then there's also frustration and exhaustion and guilt. And like, it's just all the emotions.
Yep.
And that's being a mom. And that's like the first hour of your day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My brain doesn't sleep. My brain never sleeps. I'm constantly, what am I making him for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? What is like, did I have enough toys? Did I put out his sensory items? Did I, did I do the laundry? Like, I mean, it's crazy, and but that's why in order to manage that, I need to run.
Yeah.
I also, spin, like I do cross train a lot because I do think
that's so good.
I think having the background as being a triathlete, as I tell people, I don't really, identify as a triathlete anymore. I like to be, Now I found the real cool people. The cool people were the not
trail runners
at the Ironman start line. Those are not as cool. And I freely say that knowing I may offend people, but listen, I showed up to my first ultra. I showed up to my first ultra and like people are, it's like, I was like, wow, everyone's so nice. They're asking if you need anything, you show up time and like everyone is like that's, and they're only looking at they're only backing their things, and they don't care if you need help with anything.
Yeah.
Well,
not everyone, but in general, I will say.
But it's just kind of like part of the culture of like that tunnel vision and that like focus of
But also like I've noticed from personal experience, because I'm not like, I've never been one of the fast people or anything like that, right? But I've noticed that for the most part, the trail runners, even the elite trail runners, are much more accepting and encouraging and you know what I mean?
Down to earth, just super down to earth. Right?
Yeah.
1,000%. And
which I like,
support each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think that's, that's also what makes running a little bit more, I will say though, some like the smaller triathlon businesses and, races were super supportive with when I came back postpartum, because I was supposed to do a half Ironman in June, and I was going to need to pump in transition between bike and run because I wasn't being able to run a half marathon after not pumping for that amount of distance because I was only 5 months postpartum. 5 months. And he was setting up a tent for me. So this was Patriot, which is Outside Endurance. Shout out to Outside Endurance. He's awesome.
That's phenomenal.
I've heard really great things about them.
His name is Jeff, the race director. So awesome. Set up a tent so that I could pump and it not be like awkward, and then I ended up with COVID and my mother-in-law passed away. Same week and could not go to the race. So it was really hard. And I ended up doing it self-supported a couple weeks later. He sent me my medal and everything.
Oh, that's
That is very
amazing.
cool.
Yep.
That is really cool.
And he was like, and now follows me on Instagram and likes when he sees Liam and like so supportive, like makes me like obviously I can't do a ton of triathlons right now. My focus is elsewhere, but if I was, I would sign up for all his races because that's who you want to support, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah.
Just but like, that's the thing is like, you need to lift people up. Like mothers need lifting. Mothers do not need to be put down. And I do think that there is a lot of comparison in the mother game.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And even with just being a mother runner, like, that's why I'm not saying like, oh, I did this as a mother. Like, no, like if you do anything as a mother, like let's lift each other, whatever your goals are, whatever you're able to do, like it does not matter because it's about supporting being active, supporting being healthy, and just supporting making choices and time for yourself so that you can be a better mom. And that's really what it is. Like, forget the pace, forget the distance, like doesn't matter. Honestly, 1,000%. Because I think that the message that we need to give mothers is that it's okay for you to take care of yourself, and it will help you become a better mother when you are taking care of yourself. Because without that, I mean, postpartum depression is so rampant. And
it's so tough.
Talk about it, right? Or postpartum anxiety too, both of them. And it's like without having some kind of outlet for a mother, like it's so isolating in the first 6 months, especially. It's so isolating. You're sitting at your house, or you're with a newborn. They wake every 2 hours, like the first couple months, especially, it's like, holy crap, I don't even know what the outside looks like, and unless you go outside and you make time and say like, it's okay, but, I don't know, a side note about mother running pregnant, but did you see, the woman who ran the Olympic trials 7 months pregnant? Yep.
No.
So I did not see that.
What's funny is like the article that I saw about it, I didn't look too far into it, but the article I saw about it was so supportive of her. Like people were supporting it. And good. I think that's amazing because honestly, I got very opposite when I was pregnant running.
I always got the most trouble from in most, non-support from people that were never like athletic and never and just had the least experience of that, and just being so harsh where you're like, where they're like, wow, wouldn't you rather, like, it's so horrible that you feel the need to put your time into yourself. I mean, you don't even care about like just crazy things where I was like,
I had one woman ask me one time, she says to me, well, how are you able to go for a run? I'm like, what do you mean I go for a run? And she's, well, what about your kids? I'm like, they're with their father.
Right.
And she was just like, how could you do that? And I'm like, what, leave the man with his kids? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
it's so funny you say
my
that.
husband's a good
yes. Dad,
like there's this expectation that I'm doing something wrong because the father is watching the kid. Like
but it's so ingrained. It's like a natural response because even so, I've been getting up even on the weekends. I would start my runs at like 4 or 4:30 to get them longer run done before Liam gets up because he's been getting up between 6 and 7. So I try to get an hour and a half in 2 hours now. I'm trying to, and but it's like, it's hard. It's dark. I'm by myself. Like, it's like, there's so many things. And then yesterday, Steve was like, go run with Debbie. Like, it's fine. And then he looks at me, he goes, I want time with Liam because I don't see him during the week.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, he's like, and not that I don't get it when you're here, but when you're here, it's us. He's like, I don't have a lot of just us time. And
it's so important.
It is. It's so important. Because I want that. And then he even said to me today when we were talking, he was like, it was like a reminder of what things I needed to do. Like I'd taken him out to the car because we were going to go to the store, and I forgot I needed to change the diaper because I didn't change the diaper. He's like, these are things that he doesn't do. Like, because if I'm there and I'm there all the time because during the week he doesn't really get to see him too much, just in the morning right before he goes to daycare. But he does not there, right? Like, so then I was like, all right, so 1 weekend a day, like a 1 day, you know, and then I get back up the next day, but that it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I promise.
And it is okay. It's okay.
Okay. But he,
you know, and it's actually probably, I mean, not probably, it's good for the child too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like to have the experience and to have, my husband was always the same way. I'm very lucky. Of course, he's here, so he can hear this, and I probably shouldn't say it, but like, he's extremely supportive, like really. But he's
so sweet.
Yeah, my husband's perfect. He wants to spend time with his kids.
Yeah.
Right? Like he wants that, and he always has. And when you build that when they're young, it's now they just have a great relationship. And it's nice to be able to watch that, you know, and see that, and to be able to do something like, Chris, I'm doing a virtual 100-miler. You got to take care of the kids. You got to make dinner. You got to do everything. And he does, which is amazing. But you know what I mean? Like your partnership, it's, you know, and you have to figure out what works for each family, but it's a partnership, you know?
But it's like, it's like a mindset, right? So everything is mindset, you know. Yeah.
And it's hard to stick to it. There are times where you're like,
and there's still times like, you know, there are times every day there's a time of, you know, but
all of it. Yeah.
All of it. But the mindset about like becoming a mother, keeping true to your goals, and like just staying true to that, because that makes, like, if you, like I said, when my trauma happened with my legs, they, you know, I freaked out. I was obviously freaking out. Everything was, and you know, one of the PAs said to me, you might never do sport again. And I like lost my mind. And she was like, it's not a big, like, you're going to live though. We're going to keep you. And I'm like, but
no.
But I tried to like, but she doesn't understand. It's not like I was like, that's part of my identity. You know, it's like, you're threatening my identity. And now, so like my identity is now a mom too, right? Yes. So like, I'm a mom, like, I'm a mom, you know, and like, I used to just be a teacher, runner, mother, wife, but like a mom. And that is a huge identity switch, right? It is a huge shift. But like, I am really trying so hard for my mental peace, right? To remember that I'm a mom, but I'm still a runner, right? You know, and it's good to be both. And you will have these crazy experiences in postpartum, you know, whether it's you're running and you get mastitis, or you're pumping during a race, or, you know, like all sorts of fun journeys. But
and it makes
or
for
some
funny,
of us
like,
that are old and have had 3 kids pee our pants with every run because
hey, I'm going to give a shout out right now to pelvic floor PT, because I went to pelvic floor physical therapy before I had Liam.
Wow.
Without any problems, because I wanted to make sure I didn't have problems after. And then right after having him, I also went to pelvic floor PT. If we lived in Europe, we would all get pelvic floor physical therapy automatically, because it is automatically given to all women who are pregnant. In the United States,
amazing.
We do not. You have to say you have a problem in order to go. But then at that point, you already have the problem. So it really should be a preventative thing versus, you know, being a reactive response to a problem. So, I mean, that's a shout out to all mothers who are pregnant. Go to pelvic floor PT. It's like so important. You know, it's so important.
When my oldest, and I won't get into it because it's really horrific, but I had like major complications and I almost died when I had her. And so I had to kind of be put back together, so to speak. And it's just, there's been trauma, and it just doesn't, things don't work like they used to. You know, she's worth it,
but hard.
But
depending on the day. I'm only joking.
I mean, she's 21 now, so.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But ladies, my baby is having a freak.
Yay. Well, not yay that, but this is just perfect.
Biggest hugging kiss. And listen, thank you for coming on. I think this is an very important topic. So
thank you for having me and letting me share. And I just think you guys are awesome.
Yeah. Can you do us a favor?
And I will say though, can I say one thing? I want to say that like all of the mother runners that I know, right? You're now all my inspiration because I'm like, wow, they did it. If you do it, I can do it. Right?
You are doing it.
So even though
that's awesome.
Doing it. So
which is amazing. Yeah. Can you do us a favor and send us a picture? For to
maybe one where you're pumping as you're running.
And we want an action shot of you pumping during a race. Or you could send us a picture of you and Liam, but it will be public, so it's up to you.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture of me and Liam. I will say I carried the watermelon in jug end, and he was like, "That's not as hard as what you're doing."
Yeah,
I love it.
Oh,
thanks for having me on and spreading the goodness of motherhood running and not so goodness too.
Yeah, it's all of it.
Oh,
we're very proud of you.
I'm looking forward to seeing the baby.
Yay!
Yeah.
All right, bye.
All right, bye. Yay! All right, now Art's going to have to put in music. So pretend there's music.
It feels like it's a radio station. Doesn't it sound like a radio station host? The new intro? I think it does. All right. Wait. So Celeste, are you going to pretend to be Art now?
I'm Art?
Yes. You have to do the Art
so
monologue.
I rode a bike for 400 miles. And
no, you have to do this is the Cultra Trail Running Podcast.
Oh, no, he has that in the music now. Oh, okay.
No.
So this is, yes, he does.
When he says, hi, everybody, this is like how we're like going back and forth. This is, and I'm joined today by.
Okay. All right.
Hashtag $1 dollar 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 dollar. Albert James Galatan à Marcus ami Jennifer en long ami Jennifer en long Esfrien ami Mower Power ami Sorensen Andy Tid Angela Rose Anna G Anton de Bettencourt Austin Frank Azam Poulatov Ben Nalet Ben Wan and Benjamin Griffin Berkshire Trellet Bessicus Bikini Chicken Bill Gibbs Bill Gilles Patrick Bill Odandal Brian Musiac Brice Eneli Céleste Fong Chéri Bilby Chocolately Oatmeal Raisin Chip Chris Rossol Christina Chining Christopher Colangelo Clément Santed Chink Cloris Reinhardt Crutch Lidan Brohan David Houple David Kaplan Hélène Crotella Connell Eli Pell Emily Mayer Enrique Tello Eric Wester Franklin Gandiaga Fred Wills Fucarbies Geoffrey Miller Heidi Stirn Gigi Durand Jackie Smith Jacques Sarbach Jake Cotin Jamie Millet Jean Jessica Crandall Gillian Elefson Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Trey Chart Joseph Maurice Rogest Tireba Applauded Justine Kouski Karen Prado Kelsey Englanzolo Laura Ricci Lorraine Edelman Lodaug Liane Zargé Lenia Euro Symbole Marque Commerciale S-Mom Lise Vicio 30 Massiège Macho Marty Duchau Matt Nielsen Michael Keyo Michael Low Presti Michel Pom O'Neill Microscopique Porcupine Mike Reardon Miles Victor Mommy Crègerie Monkey Stuffer Name Nat Zilsk Nicole Carey Peter Keyo Powered by Poptar Rebecca Gonzalez Kreisberg Richard Ron Trayon YouTube Finish Traveler sans robe The Bear Breckenridge Ron Locandro Ross Bielac Rufu and Brenda Chaffee Fortin Chaffee Chocolati Chicken Run The 8 at Midnight Rusty Red Wagon Samuel Dibdal Sandy Bartel Sarah Porris Scott Johnson Simons et Jets Urp Runner Steep Endurance Steven Estremra Titan Junk Miles Get Some While Supply Last The Blue Hills Contingent The Lazarus Crew Tom Starodage Tony Bonanno Tony Didomizio Tinxi Jamie MCQsker Ultra Walker Walt Ame William A Euro Eke Pruning Bro on YouTube A Euro Jaraz Mikouk Desitin The Rire